The ground beneath your feet holds entire forgotten worlds. We walk over the buried archives of past civilizations every single day, a hidden reality known as subterranean archives. These are the cities buried under the cities we know. This journey will completely reshape your understanding of history and urban life. You will discover why ancient societies constantly built over their predecessors and what these incredible time capsules reveal about human resilience. We will uncover how a Roman town was perfectly preserved in a single day and what mysterious city lies 18 levels deep in the Turkish rock. By the end, you will never look at the pavement the same way again. What forgotten story do you think lies directly beneath your own home? The constant layering of cities is a story told by mud, ambition, and disaster. Rivers like the Tigris and Euphrates did not just sustain ancient civilizations, they slowly entombed them. Every flood deposited a fresh layer of silt, a thin blanket of fertile soil that, over centuries, raised the ground level foot by foot. A house abandoned after one bad flood season might be completely buried within a few generations, its roof becoming the foundation for a new building. This natural accumulation was relentless, but it was only one force at work. Catastrophic events often provided a more dramatic reset. A devastating earthquake or a city-wide fire could reduce a thriving urban center to rubble in a single day. Instead of clearing the wreckage, it was often simpler, faster, and more stable for survivors to simply level the ruins and build anew right on top. The old city's streets became the bedrock for the new city's foundations. Yet this process was not always a matter of convenience or nature's whims. There was a powerful human element, a deliberate act of conquest and symbolism. When a new empire rose, its rulers would sometimes order the construction of their grand capital directly atop the conquered city. This was a profound political statement, a way to physically and symbolically erase the old order and demonstrate the permanence of the new. The previous culture was not just defeated, it was buried, its temples and palaces becoming literal underground support for the victor's glory. This creates an urban palimpsest, a manuscript where history has been written, scraped away, and written over again, but where the faint impressions of the old words remain forever. These subterranean archives are far more than just old rubble. They are intentional and unintentional time capsules, sealed by both human hands and the slow, patient work of the earth. To truly grasp the wonder of discovering a lost world beneath a modern street, we must first understand how it came to be lost in the first place. This foundational knowledge shifts our perspective, preparing us to see the incredible methods used to peel back these layers and read the stories they hold. An archaeologist's careful brush does more than uncover objects, it reads the story of the earth itself. This practice is known as stratigraphy, the foundational science of deciphering urban layers. Think of a city not as a single place, but as a towering stack of history, each level sealed and preserved by the one above it. The deepest layers are the oldest, a simple principle that forms the backbone of all subterranean discovery. By meticulously excavating and analyzing these distinct strata, the layers of soil, ash, brick, and stone, experts can reconstruct a precise timeline. They are not just digging for treasure, they are reading the chapters of a city's life, identifying periods of vibrant construction, sudden catastrophic fire, peaceful accumulation, and violent conquest. The composition of a layer tells its own tale. A band of ash speaks of a great fire. A deposit of clean clay might signal a deliberate effort to level the ground for a new beginning, and the shattered rubble of a wall points to a destructive event. This method transforms a simple hole in the ground into a time machine. Its power was proven spectacularly at the ancient city of Troy, a place long thought to be mere legend. Through stratigraphy, archaeologists identified not one, but 9 distinct cities built directly atop one another. They could separate the Troy of Homeric epic from the earlier and later settlements, turning myth into measurable history. This precise chronological map provided by stratigraphy is what then guides explorers toward the most thrilling finds, the physical tools and structures that give color and life to the timeline. But stratigraphy, for all its power, requires a physical dig. What if you could see through the Earth itself? Ground-penetrating radar makes this possible, offering a kind of X-ray vision for archaeologists. The device sends high-frequency radio pulses deep into the ground. When these waves hit something solid, like a buried wall or a stone floor, they bounce back to the surface. By carefully analyzing these returning signals, researchers can map the invisible world below, creating a detailed picture of hidden foundations, ancient roadways, and lost chambers. This is a completely non-invasive form of discovery. In a city like Rome, where every shovel of dirt could strike a priceless artifact, this technology is revolutionary. It allows for the survey of entire city blocks, parks, and piazzas, pinpointing the most promising archaeological sites without ever breaking the pavement. Entire Roman villas, complete with their courtyard layouts and room divisions, have been found sleeping just a few meters beneath modern apartments. In London, these radar scans have traced the ghostly outlines of medieval streets, their cobbled paths still intact under layers of concrete and tarmac. Each of these digital maps is a stunning confirmation that our contemporary world is merely the newest chapter, the topmost page in a deep and layered historical manuscript. The ground beneath us is not empty, it is a crowded archive, and we are only now learning how to read it without disturbing a single stone. A simple tube of earth can tell a more complete story than a golden treasure. This is the power of the core sample, a slender column of soil and sediment extracted from deep beneath the city streets. To an untrained eye, it looks like nothing more than a tube of dirty mud. But to a scientist, it is a vertical timeline, a frozen record of every moment that ground has witnessed. By drilling down and retrieving these cores, researchers can perform sediment analysis, reading the Earth's own diary page by page. They sift through the layers for microscopic clues, like ancient pollen grains that reveal what crops people grew or what forests surrounded the city. They find chemical traces that speak to the dietary habits of long-vanished populations, and they uncover tiny fragments of tools or pottery, all suspended in time. This method provides an environmental context that the stones of a building never could. It shows us not just how people built their world, but how their world shaped them. We can see the slow, creeping change that doomed great cities. Take the magnificent port of Ephesus, once a bustling harbor on the Aegean coast. Core samples from the area show a relentless accumulation of silt, layer upon layer, year after year. This data reveals the heartbreakingly slow process of the harbor silting up, cutting the city off from the sea trade that was its lifeblood. Long before the final abandonment, the environment was writing its obituary in the mud. And sometimes the record is not slow but shockingly sudden. A distinct gray layer of volcanic ash in a core sample from Italy marks the precise day Mount Vesuvius erupted, freezing the city of Pompeii in a single, catastrophic moment. These unassuming tubes of soil connect the grand sweep of environmental change to the intimate details of daily life, offering macro-level insights from the most micro of evidence. They set the stage for the ultimate example of a city preserved not in layers, but in a single, devastating instant. The streets of Pompeii were alive with the noise of commerce and conversation on an August morning in the year 79. Then, in a single day, everything stopped. Mount Vesuvius did not just destroy this Roman town, it sealed it under a thick, preserving layer of volcanic ash and pumice stone. This catastrophic event created perhaps the most perfect subterranean archive ever discovered, a moment frozen in time for nearly 2,000 years. Unlike the slow accumulation of silt that buried other cities, Pompeii's end was instantaneous. The clock stopped with bread still in the ovens, with meals left on tables, and with vivid political slogans still fresh on the walls. This gives us an unparalleled window into Roman society, not as it was built over centuries, but as it was lived on a single, ordinary day. We can study its urban planning with absolute clarity, trace the social structure from grand villas to small shops, and understand domestic life from the objects people left behind in their final moments. The most haunting connection to these people comes from the plaster casts of the victims. As the bodies decomposed within the hardened ash, they left perfect voids in the shape of their final postures. Archaeologists filled these spaces with plaster, creating heartbreaking sculptures of individuals caught in the disaster. A family huddled together, a man shielding his face, a dog curled in a futile attempt to escape. These are not just artifacts, they are snapshots of human lives, a stark reminder that these buried archives are not merely about stone and mortar, but about people. The perfect, poignant preservation of Pompeii stands in absolute contrast to the cities shaped by slow, deliberate transformation over many centuries. The modern streets of Rome rest upon a profound depth of human history. Walking through the city today is to traverse a complex historical cake, where every era has left its own distinct layer. A Renaissance palace might stand firmly upon the foundations of a medieval church, which itself was constructed directly over the ancient stones of a Roman temple. In some parts of the city, the very ground has risen over 20 feet, slowly submerging entire forums and monumental stadiums like the Circus Maximus beneath centuries of new construction. This incredible accumulation was not always visible. It was large-scale urban renewal in the 19th and 20th centuries that first tore open the city's skin, revealing the breathtaking scope of the ruins below. Suddenly, Romans could see with their own eyes that their bustling modern capital was merely the topmost layer of a much deeper story. This revelation gave us places like the Basilica of San Clement, a building that functions as a perfect architectural timeline. A visitor enters at street level into a beautiful medieval church. Then they descend a staircase to find themselves in a 4th century early Christian basilica, its faded frescoes still clinging to the walls. And going down even further, they reach the dank, cold basement, the foundation of the entire structure, which is a 1st century Roman apartment building and a temple to the god Mithras. This is not a museum reconstruction, it is the real, physical stack of history, one layer supporting the next. Rome's underground archives are staggeringly vast. They encompass dark, sprawling catacombs where early Christians buried their dead, the crumbling remains of ancient apartment blocks called insulae that housed the city's common people, and even the long-lost golden house of Emperor Nero. This sprawling palace complex, rediscovered during the Renaissance, had been buried and forgotten for centuries. Artists like Raphael lowered themselves on ropes into its underground chambers, and they were astonished by the vibrant, intricate paintings covering the walls. This one discovery fundamentally changed their understanding of Roman art and architecture. The Eternal City demonstrates with absolute clarity that her urban identity is not built from nothing. It is constructed directly upon the physical and cultural bedrock of its own past, a theme of continuous renewal that echoes in ancient capitals across the world. A city's forgotten pulse still beats beneath the pavement. Many of the world's great metropolises were born on the banks of rivers, their lives intertwined with the flow of fresh water. But as these settlements swelled into industrial powerhouses, their life-giving arteries became open sewers, clogged with the waste of progress. The solution was not to clean them, but to hide them. Engineers executed one of history's most ambitious acts of urban concealment, channeling these rivers into massive tunnels and pipes, then paving over them as if they never existed. They were erased from the surface map, but they never truly left the city's foundational structure. London's river fleet is a perfect example, a powerful waterway that once flowed openly to the Thames. As London grew, the fleet became a foul, polluted ditch, so notorious for its stench that it was eventually bricked over and forgotten. Today, it exists as a major sewer, flowing silently beneath the streets, its presence hinted at only by the dip of a valley or the name of a street like Fleet Street. A similar story unfolded with Seoul's Cheonggyecheon Stream in South Korea. For decades, it was a symbol of rapid modernization, sealed under concrete and an elevated highway as the city raced toward the future. These submerged rivers are not mere relics. They are active geological ghosts that continue to shape the city from the shadows. Their buried valleys dictate where engineers can safely dig subway tunnels. Their persistent flow challenges the foundations of skyscrapers, and during exceptionally heavy rains, they can violently reassert their presence, bursting through manhole covers and flooding basements in a powerful reminder of the natural world we thought we had fully tamed. This exploration of lost waterways reveals a profound truth about urban development. Our technological progress often meant concealing environmental challenges rather than solving them, putting nature out of sight and out of mind. The hidden flow of these rivers is a powerful metaphor for the other unseen currents, the cultural and historical forces that also flow relentlessly beneath our feet, constantly shaping the city above. A new building demanded more than stone and mortar for its stability. It required a spiritual anchor. Across the ancient world, from the stepped pyramids of Mesoamerica to the Great Walls of China, people practiced a solemn ritual known as the foundation sacrifice. Before the first major stone was set, an object, an animal, or sometimes even a human being would be placed within the foundation trench. This was not an act of cruelty for its own sake, but a deeply held belief that a structure must be appeased, that it needed a soul or a guardian spirit to stand strong against both physical and supernatural threats. These offerings were a plea to the gods and the spirits of the land, a desperate bargain for protection and permanence. The chosen sacrifice, often sealed alive within the walls or under the floor, was believed to become a permanent guardian, its spirit forever bound to the place it was meant to protect. When archaeologists uncover these remains, they are not just finding bones or artifacts. They are reading the most intimate fears and hopes of the builders, a spiritual subterranean archive encoded directly into the city's bones. In ancient Mesopotamia, foundation deposits often included inscribed clay tablets, calling upon the gods to protect the building and curse anyone who would dare destroy it. In Peru, the remains of llamas were found sacrificed at key points in important structures, their spiritual power channeled into the architecture itself. These practices reveal a world where the boundary between the physical and spiritual was thin and constantly negotiated. The ground itself was alive with unseen forces that had to be respected and placated. While our modern ethics rightly recoil from such rituals, their discovery forces us to understand that our ancestors built with a dual reality in mind. They were constructing not just a physical shelter, but a metaphysical one, a space safe from the chaos of both nature and the spirit world. This symbolic layer is a fundamental part of the urban palimpsest, a non-material foundation that speaks to the deepest human anxieties about our place in the world. The city's identity is built from these spiritual beliefs as much as from its bricks, a truth that leads us to wonder what other forms of essential, practical knowledge were also interred for safekeeping beneath the soil. The underworld was not a place of dread but a sacred realm of connection. For many ancient cultures, the ground beneath their feet was the doorway to the ancestral plane, a place where the boundary between the living and the dead grew thin. This profound reverence led them to build not just upward toward the sky, but deep down into the earth, creating underground shrines, tombs, and entire cities for the deceased that were woven into the fabric of daily life. The Etruscan people, for instance, constructed vast necropolises that were perfect mirrors of their cities above ground. These were not hidden cemeteries, but organized towns with streets, squares, and elaborate family tombs designed like houses, complete with furniture and vibrant wall paintings. This was a place where the living would gather to feast with their departed, maintaining a continuous relationship that blurred the line between the two worlds. Even more breathtaking is the hypogeum of Saflieni on Malta, an immense multi-level complex carved by hand from solid limestone over many centuries. It functioned simultaneously as a temple for rituals and a burial site for thousands, its echoing oracle chamber and beautifully painted rooms creating a profound, sacred atmosphere. These underground spaces were active, vital organs of the city's body. They were not sealed away and forgotten. The living regularly descended into them to perform ceremonies, seek guidance from their ancestors, and reaffirm the unbroken chain of their cultural identity. This practice of building down reveals a sophisticated philosophy of space. It shows a society that saw urban life as part of a great cycle, intimately connected to concepts of death and rebirth, with the earth itself acting as the womb for this eternal return. How strange it must have been, then, for later civilizations to stumble upon these buried sanctuaries, completely unaware of their sacred purpose. They would find the silent, bone-filled halls and misinterpret them as evidence of barbaric cults, or simply see them as convenient quarries for their own building projects, utterly missing the deep spirituality encoded in the rock. This disconnect forces us to ask what essential truths about our own cities we might be missing, a question that becomes even more compelling when we discover a metropolis that chose to build not just down, but completely inside the earth. A new faith often builds its altars upon the bones of the old. Across the medieval world, as Christianity and Islam spread, a powerful pattern emerged: the deliberate construction of churches and mosques directly atop the sacred sites of pagan religions. This was far more than a practical reuse of prime real estate. It was a profound act of ideological conquest and a calculated strategy for spiritual continuity. The magnificent Hagia Sophia in Istanbul stands as the ultimate testament to this layered faith. Its foundations were first laid upon an ancient pagan temple. It then soared as the greatest cathedral of Eastern Christianity for nearly 1,000 years, only to be transformed into a grand mosque after the Ottoman conquest. Its very stones seem to hum with the accumulated spiritual energy of multiple epochs, a physical archive of belief. In Western Europe, the same story unfolds. The soaring cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris was not placed on a random plot of land. It was carefully situated on the Isle de la Cité, a site that had previously held a Roman temple dedicated to Jupiter, and likely, even earlier, a sacred druidic grove. The new religion was making a bold statement of triumph, physically and symbolically overwriting the old gods. Yet in doing so, it was also co-opting the ancient, deeply felt sacred geography of the place. People had worshipped there for centuries. The location itself was considered a thin place, a gateway to the divine. By building there, the new faith harnessed that ingrained spiritual power, redirecting the river of devotion rather than trying to stop its flow. This created a vertical narrative of religious change, a stack of belief systems where each new layer sought to erase the one below, yet was inevitably shaped and supported by its presence. The buried cultural archive here is not made of artifacts, but of faith itself. The ideological rewriting of these urban landscapes demonstrates that our cities are not just archives of stone, but of soul. This profound entanglement of the physical and the spiritual would lay dormant for centuries, waiting for an age of rediscovery to peel back the layers and read the story anew. The buried world beneath Rome began to whisper its secrets once more during the Renaissance. After centuries of seeing ancient ruins as little more than convenient quarries for building stone, a profound intellectual shift occurred. A renewed passion for the classical world transformed the soil of Italy into a vast, waiting library. Wealthy patrons and curious scholars did not just dig for gold or marble, they excavated for knowledge, seeking the very blueprint of Roman and Greek genius. They recovered statues that inspired Michelangelo, studied inscriptions that clarified forgotten histories, and reverse-engineered architectural principles that would define the elegant palazzos and domed churches of their own age. This was not treasure hunting, it was a conscious act of cultural recovery, a rescue mission for a lost world that was seen as the pinnacle of human achievement. One pivotal figure in this movement was Flavio Biondo, an Italian scholar who took it upon himself to systematically document the crumbling ruins of Rome. He walked through the cow pastures that covered the Forum and climbed over the broken vaults of the Baths of Caracalla, not as a tourist but as a detective. His work resulted in detailed guides that carefully distinguished between the building styles of the Republic, the early Empire, and later periods. For the first time, the chaotic jumble of stones began to resolve into a coherent historical timeline. This methodical approach marked the true birth of archaeology as a discipline. The Renaissance transformed the perception of these subterranean layers from worthless rubble into priceless archives, setting a powerful precedent. The intellectual hunger of that era, the drive to learn from the buried past, paved the intellectual road for the meticulous, scientific excavations that would follow in the centuries to come. The roar of industrial machines did more than build the modern world. It tore open the ground and screamed history's secrets. The 19th century's relentless drive for progress, with its tunneling steam shovels and deep excavations for subways and sewers, became an unintentional archaeological revolution. For the first time, humanity was digging on a scale that sliced cleanly through the accumulated layers of its own past. In London, navvies digging the foundations for a new railway station would suddenly break through into a perfectly preserved Roman room, its mosaic floors startlingly intact just beneath the Victorian brick. In New York, crews excavating for a new skyscraper would uncover a colonial-era tavern cellar, its bottles and clay pipes frozen in time under the modern street grid. These were not careful, scholarly excavations. They were violent, unplanned collisions with the deep past. Workers unearthed mass graves from the Great Plague, their bones a silent testament to a city's old trauma, and they pulled perfectly preserved medieval leather shoes and tools from the anoxic mud of forgotten riverbanks. The past was no longer a distant rumor. It was a physical reality crashing into the present at the business end of a pickaxe. This created an immediate and painful dilemma for city planners and engineers. Every discovery meant a costly delay, a halt to the relentless march of industry. The choice was stark: preserve the ancient wall and reroute the railway, or break it apart and press on toward the future. Too often, the choice was demolition. Countless sites were recorded only in a quick sketch or a newspaper article before being ground into rubble to make way for concrete and steel. Yet this very destruction sparked a powerful counter-movement. The shocking scale of the loss galvanized poets, artists, and scholars who began to publicly decry the vandalism of history. Their outrage forged the early preservation movement and pushed archaeology from a gentleman's hobby into a professional science dedicated to rescue and recording. The Industrial Age delivered a sobering lesson. The Subterranean Archive is not infinite. It can be read, but it can also be erased in an instant by the very forces of progress that uncover it. This fundamental tension, first felt in the smoke and grit of the 19th century, has never left us. It is the same battle we fight today when ancient ruins are discovered at a subway construction site, a constant negotiation between the footprint of our future and the foundations of our past. A new subway tunnel can destroy 1,000 years of history in a single afternoon. This is the defining tension of the 21st century city, a constant clash between the urgent needs of the present and the silent archives of the past. As urban populations explode, the demand for new infrastructure for subways, skyscrapers, and expanded roadways creates an immense pressure to dig, often right through the very heart of our buried heritage. The foundation piles for a new high-rise can slice through a medieval market square, or a tunnel boring machine can pulverize an ancient Roman villa before anyone even knows it is there. This forces a painful and complex ethical question upon city planners and citizens alike. What do we sacrifice for progress? Which layers of our history are deemed essential enough to save, and which are quietly consigned to the dust of the excavator? The answer is rarely simple, pitting the tangible needs of modern citizens for housing and transportation against the more abstract responsibility to preserve our collective human story for generations yet to come. Some cities have risen to this challenge with remarkable ingenuity. In Athens, every major construction project is now preceded by a meticulous archaeological survey. The city has essentially institutionalized a practice known as rescue archaeology, where teams of archaeologists are embedded directly at construction sites. They work in a race against the clock, often under the glare of stadium lights, to meticulously document, excavate, and recover whatever they can before the cement trucks arrive. The construction of the Athens metro, for instance, became one of the largest archaeological digs in the city's history, unearthing ancient roads, graves, and artifacts that are now displayed in stations, turning the daily commute into a journey through time. Istanbul faces an even more monumental task, building a modern megacity atop thousands of years of continuous history, from Greek Byzantium to Roman Constantinople to Ottoman Istanbul. Here, the protocol is not just about stopping for a discovery, it is about anticipating one. Major projects must allocate significant time and budget for expected archaeological work, treating the Subterranean Archive as a known and active stakeholder in the city's future. This ongoing, delicate negotiation reveals a profound truth about our urban centers. The ground beneath them is not a static museum, but a living, contested space. Every decision about where to build is also a decision about what story to tell, what part of our shared past we choose to carry forward into the light, and what we allow to be lost to the darkness forever. This very modern struggle redefines the city not just as a place of steel and glass, but as the active, breathing curator of its own deep history. The same waters that once nourished ancient civilizations now threaten to dissolve their memory. Climate change is not just a crisis for our future, but a direct assault on our past, as rising sea levels and intensifying coastal erosion target the world's most vulnerable subterranean archives. For centuries, burial in silt and sand protected these sites, creating a stable, oxygen-poor environment that preserved wood, fabric, and other fragile materials. Now that protective embrace is turning toxic. Saltwater is intruding into the buried ruins of ancient ports like Alexandria in Egypt, a city built by Alexander the Great and home to the legendary lighthouse. The salt corrodes metal, dissolves organic matter like wooden ship hulls and papyrus scrolls, and weakens stone foundations through constant cycles of wetting and drying. The effect is like dropping a sugar cube into water, a slow but relentless disintegration. Even more dramatic is the fate of Thonis Heracleion, a bustling Egyptian port city that literally sank into the Mediterranean over 1,000 years ago. Rediscovered by underwater archaeologists, its colossal statues and temples have been remarkably preserved by their muddy seabed tomb. But now, stronger currents and shifting sediments, driven by climate change, are scouring away that protective layer, leaving these priceless structures exposed to the open water and the destructive organisms that live there. This has ignited a desperate race against time for marine archaeologists. Their work is no longer just about discovery, it is a salvage operation on a global scale. Using advanced three-dimensional scanning and photogrammetry, they create hyper-detailed digital models of every statue, every column, every artifact. These are not just pictures, they are perfect virtual clones, capturing every crack and inscription with millimeter precision. This digital archive becomes a permanent record, a backup copy of a history that may soon exist only in cyberspace. It raises a profound and unsettling question. If we can no longer save the physical object, is its digital ghost enough? The loss of these coastal archives is a double tragedy. We lose not only the object itself, but the very context that gives it meaning, the precise location and relationship to other finds that tell the full story of a city's life. The encroaching sea forces a stark realization. Our stewardship of the planet is directly linked to our ability to safeguard the story of humanity itself. The fate of our past is now lashed to the uncertain future of our coastlines. A digital ghost now walks where no archaeologist can safely tread. As physical access to the deepest subterranean archives becomes too dangerous or restricted, a revolutionary new field is emerging: digital archaeology. This discipline creates perfect virtual twins of lost cities, allowing for endless exploration without a single trowel ever touching the ancient earth. The tools for this are as precise as they are powerful. Laser scanning, known as LiDAR, fires millions of laser points from an aircraft to map the ground surface, revealing the ghostly outlines of structures completely invisible to the naked eye. It has peeled back the dense jungles of Guatemala to expose entire Mayan ceremonial centers, their pyramids and plazas hidden for a millennium. On the ground, photogrammetry uses thousands of overlapping photographs to build a three-dimensional model of a ruin with millimeter accuracy. A crumbled Roman column in Italy can be digitally reassembled on a computer screen, its every crack and carving preserved forever. These are not just pretty pictures for museums. They are active research platforms. A scholar in London can put on a virtual reality headset and walk through a precise reconstruction of an Egyptian tomb, taking measurements and testing sight lines from the comfort of their office. They can run simulations to see how sunlight would have fallen on an altar at the summer solstice, or apply stress models to understand why a particular wall collapsed. This digital sandbox allows for endless experimentation without any risk to the fragile original. Perhaps most importantly, this technology is democratizing our shared heritage. A virtual reality experience can transport a schoolchild from a classroom in Tokyo directly into the buried streets of Pompeii, or let them stand in the echoing chambers of the Hypogeum on Malta. These immersive journeys foster a connection to the past that a textbook simply cannot provide. The creation of these digital archives is a race against time, an insurance policy for history itself. It ensures that even if the physical site is lost to erosion, war, or the rising sea, its memory, its data, and its story will remain intact for all future generations to study and to wonder at. Science may map the layers of our past, but legend whispers of a world far deeper still. The enduring myth of Agatha speaks to a subterranean kingdom of immense age and wisdom, hidden in the caverns at the heart of the earth. This legendary realm was said to be illuminated by a central sun, its capital city populated by an advanced and peaceful civilization that had long ago retreated from the surface world. According to the tales that flourished in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, vast, smooth-walled tunnels connected this inner world to our own, with entrances concealed in the most remote places, the Himalayas, the poles, the deepest deserts. These stories were not born in a vacuum. They often sprouted from the misinterpretation of real phenomena. Explorers returning from Tibet might have seen immense natural cave systems and woven their awe into tales of hidden cities. Ancient religious texts describing spiritual underworlds were sometimes taken as literal, geographical accounts. The legend of Agatha is a powerful example of how the very real, physical mystery of what lies beneath the ground can ignite our most expansive imaginative landscapes. It is a fiction thoroughly debunked by our understanding of planetary geology, yet its persistent appeal is profoundly real. It reflects a yearning not just for lost history, but for lost potential, for a hidden well of knowledge and peace waiting to be rediscovered. This myth reminds us that our drive to fill the blank spaces on the map with wonders is as fundamental to the human spirit as the careful work of the archaeologist's brush. The scientific archive is built with soil and stone, but the mythical one is built with hope and mystery, and both speak to our innate need to believe there is always something more to find. The Rock of Cappadocia holds a city of whispers carved not upward, but into the deep, dark earth. This is Derinkuyu, a labyrinthine metropolis that plunges 18 levels into the volcanic stone, a space so vast it could shelter 20,000 people along with their livestock, food, and entire way of life. Its sheer scale is disorienting. This was not a simple cave or a temporary hideout. It was a fully realized underground world engineered with precision. Ingenious ventilation shafts carried fresh air to the deepest chambers, central wells tapped into hidden aquifers, and massive rolling stone doors, each weighing half a ton, could seal off entire sections from the outside world. Residents had everything they needed for a prolonged siege, from churches for worship to wine presses for sustenance and morale. The existence of such a place forces a haunting question upon us. What kind of threat could compel an entire society to retreat so completely from the sun? The prevailing theory points to the harsh realities of the surface, a refuge from invading armies or waves of religious persecution that swept across the region for centuries. People could have vanished into this stone sanctuary for months at a time, their lives continuing in the flickering lamplight while danger raged overhead. Yet the precise origins of Derinkuyu are shrouded in mystery, its first architects lost to time. Some scholars suggest its earliest chambers might be far older than we think, perhaps carved by the Phrygians 1,000 years before the Common Era, and then expanded by early Christians and later Byzantines. This long history of use and reuse makes it difficult to pinpoint its single, true purpose. It stands as a monumental puzzle, its story written not on parchment, but in the negative space of excavated rock. Derinkuyu fundamentally challenges our perception of ancient life. We often imagine past societies building toward the sky, creating pyramids and temples to touch the heavens. But here we find a civilization that invested an equal, if not greater, collective effort in building down, in creating a sanctuary of last resort. The social organization required for such an endeavor is staggering, a testament to a community that could plan, execute, and live by a shared survival strategy for generations. This was not a panicked reaction, but a calculated, multi-generational insurance policy carved into the very bedrock. It demonstrates a capability for large-scale subterranean living that feels almost modern, rivaling the most hardened bunker complexes of our own era. The silent, sprawling city of Derinkuyu forces us to expand our understanding of human resilience. It asks us to consider what we would be willing to sacrifice for safety, and what profound crises could drive us to seek our future in the deep, cool dark. The sands of Giza guard their deepest secret not in plain sight, but in the profound silence beneath the Sphinx's gaze. For all the centuries spent studying the pyramids, the most compelling mysteries may lie deep underground, in a rumored network of tunnels and chambers that has eluded full discovery. Recent scientific surveys have detected strange anomalies, large cavities and voids that cannot be easily explained by the natural geology of the plateau. These are not the known tombs of pharaohs, but uncharted spaces that resist simple classification. The speculation surrounding them is immense, fueled by ancient clues and modern prophecies. One tantalizing piece of evidence is the so-called Inventory Stela, an ancient text claiming the Great Sphinx itself predates the pyramids and that hidden beneath it are archives from the time of the gods. These ideas were dramatically amplified in the 20th century by the psychic Edgar Cayce, who prophesied a hidden hall of records buried somewhere near the Sphinx, a sealed library said to contain the lost knowledge of a sophisticated civilization, perhaps even Atlantis. For decades, these notions were dismissed as pure fantasy by mainstream Egyptology. Yet the persistent, unexplained readings from the bedrock have forced a re-evaluation. How do we investigate such a sensitive site without causing damage? The answer comes from the frontiers of particle physics. Researchers are now using a technique called muon radiography, which functions like a cosmic X-ray. It relies on muons, subatomic particles that constantly rain down from the atmosphere, penetrating deep into rock. By placing detectors in known chambers beneath the pyramids, scientists can measure how many muons pass through the stone above them. A higher than expected count indicates the muons are traveling through empty space, not solid rock, revealing the shape and size of hidden voids. This non-invasive mapping is our first true look into this forbidden zone, a way to chart the invisible architecture without ever swinging a pickaxe. The potential is staggering. Confirming a large, man-made chamber could validate legends that have persisted for millennia, forcing a complete rewrite of early Egyptian history and the true purpose of the Giza complex. It might prove that the plateau is not just a royal cemetery, but a vast, coded monument built around a protected core of foundational knowledge. The search for what lies beneath Giza is more than an archaeological project. It is a symbol of our enduring hunger to solve the ultimate puzzle. It represents the cutting edge of our quest to understand human origins, blending rigorous science with the tantalizing possibility that the greatest chapters of our past are still waiting patiently in the dark. Our obsession with the world below is written into our oldest stories. The underground is more than a physical space in our collective imagination. It is a powerful psychological symbol for the subconscious mind itself. It represents everything we have buried, our hidden fears, our forgotten memories, and the parts of ourselves we choose not to see. This is a realm of profound duality, holding both terror and treasure in equal measure. We fear the dark, the collapse, the feeling of being trapped, yet we are irresistibly drawn by the promise of lost knowledge and forgotten power. This deep-seated conflict plays out in our most enduring myths. The hero must often descend into a terrifying underworld, facing their own mortality to retrieve something of immense value. Orpheus ventured into Hades to bring back his beloved Eurydice, and Luke Skywalker entered the dark, tree-filled cave on Dagobah to confront a vision of his own potential for darkness. These are not just adventures, they are metaphors for the most difficult journey we can ever take, the journey inward. When we watch an archaeologist brush away the dust from an ancient wall, we are witnessing a form of externalized introspection. The act of digging down through urban layers mirrors our own struggle to uncover buried truths about who we are and where we came from. Every time a lost city is revealed, it feels like a collective memory returning, a piece of our shared human story pulled back from the brink of oblivion. This psychological resonance is the engine of our fascination. It is why the mystery of a buried city captivates us far more than a ruin sitting plainly on the surface. The scientific drive to map and catalog is fueled by the same primal force that inspires artists, writers, and dreamers. We are not just searching for old stones, we are searching for a reflection, a reminder that our present world is built upon layers of choices, disasters, and triumphs that we have only just begun to remember. The same earth that preserved our past may now shelter our future. As our climate grows more volatile, with scorching heat waves and violent storms becoming the norm, a radical idea is gaining traction in architectural circles. We must look down, not just up. The ancient wisdom of building underground is being re-examined as a viable strategy for modern survival. This is not about hiding from the world, but about harnessing the natural thermal mass of the planet. The ground beneath us maintains a remarkably stable temperature, insulated from the wild swings of the surface. Ancient examples like the sprawling cities of Cappadocia prove the principle. Carved into volcanic rock, their deep chambers remained cool during blistering summers and warm during freezing winters, all without a single watt of electricity. This passive climate control is a form of genius, one that drastically reduces the need for energy-intensive heating and air conditioning. The Subterranean Archive, once a record of past adaptation, is becoming a blueprint for our next chapter. This thinking has given rise to a new architectural concept, the Earth Scraper. Imagine a skyscraper in reverse, a colossal structure that descends dozens of stories into the ground instead of reaching for the clouds. Its central atrium would be a vast, open pit, allowing natural light to flood the upper levels, while the deeper floors would rely on efficient, full-spectrum lighting that mimics the sun's cycle. These would not be dark, cramped bunkers, but vibrant, vertical communities with parks, offices, and homes, all protected from the environmental stresses of the surface. The heat of a wildfire, the fury of a hurricane, the oppressive humidity of a heat dome, all would be muted by meters of solid earth. This is not a retreat from society, but a reimagining of urban space that prioritizes sustainability and resilience. The lessons from those buried cities we once saw as mere historical curiosities are now urgent conversations. The knowledge encoded in the rock of Derinkuyu and the thermal regulation of Roman hypocausts are being studied not by historians alone, but by teams of engineers and city planners. They are asking a profound question. What if the greatest legacy of our ancestors is not what they left behind, but the model they provided for enduring an uncertain future? This forward-looking application brings our entire exploration full circle. We began by uncovering how past civilizations were buried, and we end by considering how their solutions might allow our own to continue. The Subterranean Archive is no longer just a window into where we have been. It is becoming a door to where we might need to go next. A single artifact pulled from the earth carries the weight of many stories, but who gets to decide which story is told? Unearthing a buried city is never a neutral act. It is an intervention that raises profound ethical questions about ownership, narrative, and the treatment of the dead. For much of archaeology's history, the field was an extension of colonial power. Wealthy nations from the global north would arrive with permits and funding, extracting priceless artifacts from their source countries with little regard for local heritage. These objects, from Egyptian mummies to Mesopotamian tablets, were shipped overseas to fill the museums of London, Paris, and Berlin. The legacy of this era is a trail of unresolved disputes. The Parthenon marbles, taken from Athens by Lord Elgin in the 19th century and now held by the British Museum, remain one of the most famous flashpoints in an ongoing global debate over cultural patrimony. The central question is stark: does an object belong to the country that possesses it, or to the culture and land from which it was born? This history of extraction has fueled a powerful modern movement to decolonize the practice. Today, the most forward-thinking projects embrace community-based archaeology. This means that from the very beginning, local populations and descendant communities are not just hired laborers, but essential partners. Their oral histories, their traditional knowledge, and their spiritual connections to the land become integral to the research. The goal shifts from simply extracting data to co-creating a narrative, ensuring that the story told about the past is one that the people most connected to it recognize and affirm. This ethical framework extends with deep sensitivity to the most human of remains. The disturbance of ancient graves and sacred sites requires careful protocols. Many indigenous cultures around the world hold that the dead must not be disturbed, that their rest is sacred. When human remains must be studied, it is now often done in temporary, respectful consultation, with the ultimate aim of repatriation and reburial. The display of mummies in glass cases, once a staple of museums, is increasingly seen as a profound violation of dignity. This evolving consciousness transforms the entire endeavor. The excavator is no longer a treasure hunter, but a custodian engaged in a delicate, respectful dialogue across centuries. Every decision, from where to dig to how to interpret a find, is filtered through a new ethical lens. The Subterranean Archive does not belong to us. We are merely its temporary, responsible stewards. The silent stones of a forgotten city can become the foundation of a community's future. When a major subterranean site is uncovered and preserved, it does more than rewrite history books. It can completely revitalize a local economy. Tourists travel from across the globe, drawn by the powerful desire to walk through ancient streets and touch a past they have only read about. This influx of visitors generates a powerful economic current. Hotels are built, restaurants open, and local artisans find a new market for their crafts. The revenue from ticket sales, guided tours, and associated tourism doesn't just line pockets. It creates a vital funding stream for the ongoing work of conservation and research. This establishes a virtuous cycle, a self-sustaining loop where the value of cultural heritage directly fuels economic development, and that economic success, in turn, pays for the sophisticated technology and expert teams needed to protect the heritage itself. The past literally pays for its own future. The proof of this powerful model is visible around the world. Pompeii in Italy is not just an archaeological site, it is an economic pillar for the entire region. The intricate Khu Khai tunnels in Vietnam, a sprawling underground network from the war, now provide a crucial source of income and education for the surrounding communities. And beneath the streets of Paris, the haunting galleries of the catacombs draw millions, their ticket sales funding the meticulous structural maintenance required to keep the ossuary safe. This demonstrates with absolute clarity that our shared history is not a financial burden, but a tangible, valuable asset for building a prosperous future. Yet this success brings its own formidable challenge. The very feet that fund preservation can also cause its slow decay. Increased footfall brings vibrations, humidity from breath, and the accidental brush of thousands of hands, all of which contribute to the gradual wear and tear of fragile frescoes, ancient mosaics, and unstable stonework. The constant flow of people creates a microclimate that can accelerate erosion in ways that centuries of burial did not. The central task, then, becomes one of delicate balance. How do we make these incredible sites accessible to the public without loving them to death? The answer lies in intelligent management. This means constructing carefully designed walkways that guide visitors while protecting the original pavement, installing advanced climate control systems to stabilize the air, and strictly limiting the number of daily visitors to reduce cumulative stress. The ultimate goal is sustainability, ensuring that the economic benefits fueled by tourism do not come at the cost of the resource itself. A site managed well today will continue to generate wonder and revenue for our grandchildren, proving that the deepest value of our subterranean archives is not just in what they tell us about where we have been, but in how they can sustainably support the communities that guard them. An artificial intelligence can sift through satellite images and geological surveys, spotting patterns no human eye would ever notice. These intelligent systems are being trained to analyze gargantuan datasets, from ground-penetrating radar readings to subtle shifts in magnetic fields, searching for the faint signature of a buried wall or the empty space of a forgotten tomb. This is not a replacement for human intuition, but a powerful augmentation. The AI acts as a guide, pointing researchers toward the most probable locations for a major discovery, saving years of fruitless digging and immense resources. Alongside this digital scout, a new generation of physical explorers is being readied. Imagine a slender, snake-like robot equipped with cameras and sensors, capable of slithering through a crack in a collapsed tunnel, navigating passages far too unstable for any human to enter. Or consider autonomous drones, their rotors silent, mapping vast, pitch-black caverns with laser precision, creating a perfect three-dimensional model without a single footprint left behind. These machines are the vanguard, our eyes and hands in the deepest, most dangerous recesses of the subterranean world. Their mission is to go where we cannot, to see what has been hidden for millennia. The frontier of this search is expanding beyond traditional dig sites to the planet's most extreme environments. The ice sheets of Antarctica, miles thick, may seal away evidence of human habitation from a time when the continent's coasts were warmer and ice-free. What if a prehistoric culture, completely unknown to our history books, thrived there tens of thousands of years ago, their entire world now buried under accumulating snow? Similarly, the ocean floor holds immense promise. During the last ice age, sea levels were hundreds of feet lower, exposing vast coastal plains that were home to countless settlements. As the glaciers melted, these areas, these potential cradles of civilization, were inundated and forgotten. Advanced sonar and submersible technology are now mapping these sunken landscapes with incredible detail, revealing the ghostly outlines of river valleys and hills that were once dry land. The potential is staggering. We could discover a submerged city off the coast of India, or find the remains of a lost culture beneath the North Sea. Each of these machines and each new dataset is a key, designed to unlock a deeper layer of the human story. The cumulative effect of this technological leap will be a fundamental rewriting of our past. The next century of exploration will not simply add footnotes to history. It will likely reveal entire chapters we never knew existed. Civilizations that rose and fell without leaving a trace in any written record, their existence inferred only from the silent stones they left behind. This ongoing quest guarantees one thing: the map of our history is not a finished document. It is a living, breathing entity, constantly being redrawn as we learn to see through the earth, through the ice, and through the water, forever deepening our connection to the hidden worlds beneath our feet. Our journey ends where it began, beneath the soles of our shoes. The ground we walk on is not an inert foundation, but a living library, its shelves stacked with the volumes of human ambition, resilience, and memory. Each buried city, from Pompeii's frozen streets to the uncharted voids of Giza, tells us that history is not a straight line. It is a spiral, a cumulative process where every generation constructs its world upon the literal and metaphorical ruins of the last. Our modern skylines are simply the newest paragraphs in a story written in layers of stone, silt, and spirit. The complex work of preserving these sites, the ethical weight of unearthing them, and the breathtaking potential of new technologies to explore them all prove one thing: engaging with the Subterranean Archive is not a one-way lecture from the past. It is a dynamic, urgent conversation that spans centuries, a dialogue between who we were, who we are, and who we might yet become. As our own cities climb ever higher into the clouds, we must remember to also look down. Listen for the whispers rising through the pavement. They carry the stories of survival, adaptation, and community that can illuminate our own path forward. The next time you walk through your own city, pause for a moment, feel the texture of the pavement, and wonder what forgotten world rests just below. What local mysteries are waiting for a curious mind to uncover them? Share what you know or what you suspect in the comments below. The map of our hidden history is far from complete, and your curiosity might just be the next great discovery.